Oh, hi there! This lost movie has been reviewed all over the internet and is considered one of the worst films of all time. But if it's been released, how can it be lost media? Well, sit back while we explore the humble beginnings of a production company and one man's vision for the next big thing that led to the death and rebirth of the worst animated film ever. This is the story of the lost movie that still got made. This is the story of Foodfight.
Here goes.
Food! Fight!
The history of Foodfight revolves around one man, Lawrence Larry Kasanoff, who in 1993 founded the company Threshold Entertainment. Threshold were best known in the 90s for producing the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie and its universally panned sequel, Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
You're alive. Too bad you will die.
The idea for Foodfight came from Kasanoff and Threshold producer Joshua Wexler. Kasanoff and Wexler envisioned a movie like Toy Story, but set in a supermarket, and taking Toy Story's minor product placement, such as Mr. Potato Head and Slinky Dog, to the extreme by filling their fictional grocery store with as many real-world brands as possible.
I'll take it all. Just send the bill.
Threshold as a company did have small-scale experience in 3D animation, having worked on Hershey's really big 3D show for Hershey's Chocolate World, and visual effects for numerous movies such as I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, Ace Ventura Pet Detective, and Dogma. With this kind of 3D animation experience, making a 3D animated film wasn't out of the realm of possibility. In mid-2001, Threshold distributed a press release detailing the film for the first time. This release would make some impressive claims, calling the movie the most complex digitally animated feature film ever attempted that will incorporate thousands of products and character icons from the grocery store, and that brands will be altered in order to customize the film for a worldwide audience. But perhaps the most interesting part of the press release shows that Foodfight was meant to be a multimedia franchise. There were going to be Foodfight toys, video games, a live show, their own brand of food, and most impressively, a 22-episode web series called Foodfight: The Adventures of Dex Detective that was scheduled to be released 8 months before the film. But with Kasanoff being the benevolent ruler he is, would allow participating brands to have the opportunity to pay Threshold to create a web series featuring their icons. The press release also announced their association with Korean investment company Natural Image, who combined with equity financing would fund the movie's production at around $50 million. The production initially gained minor controversy over its claims that the movie would contain thousands of products. Gary Ruskin of Commercial Alert remarked, "It raises the commercial assault on children to a new level of brazenness. Some people will stoop to any level to make a buck, and sadly Foodfight is an example. It looks like a 2-hour parade of junk food at a time when we have skyrocketing levels of childhood obesity and type 2 diabetes." But Larry Kasanoff had already prepared for this, going on to boast that the flick is entirely product placement free in an interview with Kidscreen. "No one paid us to be in this movie, and we didn't pay anyone to be in this movie. It's not a big commercial." In later interviews, this model will be referred to as cross-promotion rather than product placement. The following year, Threshold released Foodfight's first trailer, giving us our first look at the movie, and expected a full release within the next year or so. And even by 2000 standards, the trailer didn't look too good, being dated when compared to other computer animated movies at the time, like Shrek, Ice Age, or Finding Nemo. We could tell the movie was going to use squash and stretch animation, similar to Looney Tunes, but using 3D computer animation, something that was difficult at the time. But none of this stopped Kasanoff from touting the film as the next big thing, telling Animation Magazine, "Do we believe our next movie, Foodfight, is going to be a huge hit? Of course we do. This is the most complex digitally animated film ever undertaken, with thousands of different characters and hundreds of sets. We're never going to be the next Pixar being for-hire producers with some other shop." You heard right. Larry thought Threshold had the potential to be the next Pixar. But even though the movie didn't look great, I can't blame Kasanoff for being excited. Something that's often overlooked when talking about Foodfight is its absolutely visionary casting. If the movie was released in 2003 or 2004 as expected, it would have featured Charlie Sheen right on the heels of his debut on 2.5 Men, a role which he'd become the highest paid actor in television for, a pre-Desperate Housewives Eva Longoria, Hilary Duff just after Lizzie McGuire, what would have been Wayne Brady's feature film debut, a pre-Mean Girls Daniel Franzese, and Chris Kattan right after his tenure on SNL. But the film's production came to a standstill in late 2002 when the hard drives containing all the work for the movie were stolen. Kasanoff would refer to the crime as industrial espionage and would tell the New York Times it was an incredibly complex crime. They got into the cold room, a room within a room within a room. Kasanoff also claimed the Secret Service was involved in the investigation for the stolen movie. The company was insured for the loss, but the thieves stole almost everything, leading the team to start production from scratch. Today, the mystery of who stole the film is unsolved, but we do have some theories.
The only case that ever really mattered, and I couldn't solve it.
Let's start with who would have had the motivation to steal the movie. Maybe one of the companies whose products were used could have seen how bad the movie was going to turn out and tried to get out of their contract. They couldn't, so they resorted to theft. Maybe a rival company like Pixar, DreamWorks, or even Disney could have stole the movie. This is pretty silly because all these companies already had better looking movies years prior and clearly didn't have anything to worry about. But to me, the most likely thief will be someone on the inside. Kasanoff said the crime was extremely complex, meaning that someone on the inside, someone who had intimate knowledge of the facility, would have a much easier time stealing the movie. An animator, a producer, or even Larry himself would all have motivation, as a movie this bad could potentially damage a career. A common theory passed around is that the movie was never stolen, that the whole thing was fabricated. Threshold were either sued over the movie, or it was scrapped and they wanted to save face. I personally cannot find the police report for the incident anywhere, and if anyone can, please tweet it at me at LostMediaMike. The last and most prevalent theory is that the movie was part of a money laundering scheme. The main evidence for this is just how much the movie cost, an estimated $45 to $65 million, versus the finished product. Compare this to Toy Story, which cost $30 million, the Lego Movie, which cost $60 to $65 million, Sausage Party at $19 million, or even Shrek, which was released in 2001 with a $60 million budget that still holds up today. More evidence that something criminal behind the scenes was going on is the insurance money. A 2004 New York Times article states the film was insured and insurance money was collected. Though this doesn't prove anything criminal, it shows that money could have been made over the film's loss.
Let's strawberry jam out of here.
Even though the team had lost years of work, Threshold decided to continue and production on Foodfight resumed in 2004, but Kasanoff wanted to change the film's direction, scrapping the squash and stretch style in favor of making the movie more like a live-action film through the use of motion capture, retakes, and spontaneity. This new approach could not be any more different than squash and stretch, and as a result, Kasanoff and the animators were speaking two different languages. Motion capture was split between two companies, House of Moves and Image Metrics. According to a 2013 New York Times article, Image Metrics had a limitation. Performers had to stare straight ahead and keep still. The result was subdued, with eyes appearing vacant or looking in the wrong direction. Which, if you look at early films of Image Metrics, such as Meet Dave, the facial animation is very stiff, but this at least seems to be somewhat intentional for Meet Dave. This explains why the first trailer of Foodfight has better looking eyes than the lifeless final release. For this new take on the movie, Lionsgate was set to distribute the film, with financing company Story Arc providing $20 million in funding. The movie was set to have a quick turnaround, scheduled for a 2005 release. At this point, Kasanoff's inexperience as a director began to show. Former Threshold animators claimed that Kasanoff would say things like, "make it more awesome," or "make it 30% better," and didn't understand any of the animation technology or its limitations. According to Kenneth Weitrack, a layout artist on the project, his approach, because he'd gotten the money for it and no one could say no to him, was very idiosyncratic. You didn't know from day to day what would occur. Would there be a review? Would he suddenly want to change the whole thing? Kasanoff also wanted adult jokes in the movie that some of the brands found offensive. For example, McKee Foods wouldn't allow Daredevil Dan to catcall Little Debbie, and one of the snack mascots was to have a case of peanut envy. The catcalling seems to have made it into the final film, but Little Debbie was replaced with a generic character.
How about some chocolate frosting?
The film was delayed again, pushed back to 2006, and that year the Foodfight website began to give us more details. Included was a description of 6 characters. Of those 6 characters were Harry Hold, played by Greg Elias, and Polar Penguin, played by Chris Kattan, whose inclusion on this list implied they were meant for a bigger role in the final film. After missing their 2006 release, the website was updated, listing the release for spring 2007, then fall 2007, and by 2008, the website just directs you to the Threshold website with no release date in sight.
Is that the enticing scent of rich, creamy chocolate? Are you chocolate? Are you made of chocolate? Really?
After years in development, The final nail in the coffin came in 2011 after Threshold defaulted on their loans. And on Monday, September 26, 2011, at 10 a.m., in the law offices of Gladstone, Michael, Weinsberg, Wilmer, and Salone in Marina del Rey, California, with an opening bid of $2.5 million, the movie Foodfight was auctioned off to British company Boulevard Entertainment. Once the movie was sold, the investors at StoryArc enacted a clause through their insurance agency, Fireman's Fund Insurance Company, that led Fireman's Fund to step in and have the movie completed as quickly and as cheaply as possible for immediate release. The insurance company is even listed in the rights section when buying the movie on the Google Play Store. Also, don't buy the movie on the Google Play Store, it's been free on YouTube for years. In a 2013 interview, late-stage animator Ken Bailey said at this point in development, the film was already ruined. They were just trying to salvage what they could.
Who was your favourite character? The doggy and the squirrel. Doggy and the squirrel were our favourites, so yeah, good film.
In 2012, the movie was quietly released with a limited theatrical run in the UK and will be released on DVD soon after. The film's total gross is debatable, with thenumbers.com saying around $73,000 were made, and Box Office Mojo saying around $120,000 were made, all against a $65 million budget. And as you might have guessed, the movie was not received well from critics, with a 1.5 on IMDb, a 1.6 on the Bomb Report, a 10% review on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty generous, and the movie has since been roasted all over YouTube.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a spam.
With the release of the film, it became apparent that the 1,000 brand icons promised by Kasanoff were not present in the film, with at least 20 characters and around 20 non-character products that were confirmed or shown in the first trailer gone. A number of these missing mascots are seemingly mocked throughout the film in mean-spirited ways, as if they didn't make the right choice by leaving the production. Over the years, various Foodfight merchandise has been released, with the occasional book being found at a thrift shop, a Foodfight plush for sale on eBay, or in a movie theater claw machine. And sometimes, you can still find a physical copy of the movie for sale on store shelves. Threshold has since tried their best to forget about the movie, not even listing it on their website, and not copyright claiming the movie when it's uploaded in its entirety to YouTube. To this day, the stolen original copy of Foodfight has never surfaced, and the case has gone cold. But honestly, I don't think they're looking too hard anymore.
But how did you get in and out of the store?
Now I might get some flack for this, but I think the idea for Foodfight is genius. From a business perspective, the movie had so much potential, and based on the continued success of Threshold Entertainment, Larry Kasanoff is clearly a good businessman who knows his way around the industry. When I pored over the history of this film, I kept asking myself, what went wrong? And every time, the problem could be traced back to Larry. Even though he had all the odds in his favor, the downfall of Foodfight seems to be the arrogance of Larry Kasanoff. He had funding, skilled writers, an experienced animation team, and had secured deals with some of the most popular food brands, as well as well-known voice actors. But he didn't utilize them to their full potential. Instead, he ignored them, and didn't even have enough knowledge of the medium to know how to utilize them properly. This is disappointing because the beginnings of Threshold Entertainment are similar to that of Pixar. They started with a few shorts, and doing visual effects for movies, with the next big step being a feature film. The stark difference is that Pixar had a team full of visionary artists who wanted to make a great movie. Threshold, on the other hand, was led by a businessman who considered profit before content. Someone with all the money, but none of the heart. Luckily, the story does have a happy ending. Threshold are still around today, still doing 3D animation, but now for theme park rides. And Larry Kasanoff has since directed another movie, a 2015 documentary on mindfulness. And from what I can tell, no one's career was derailed from the movie, though Charlie Sheen's seen better days. But not all as well. It looks like Threshold are re-entering the feature film business with a trilogy based on the video game Tetris, and a 2021 reboot of the Mortal Kombat series on the big screen, with Kasanoff as executive producer according to his website. We'll see if Threshold Entertainment and Larry Kasanoff can surprise us and redeem themselves. But for some reason, I'm not so sure. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments your theory on what happened to the movie, and consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this. This is Mike with All Things Lost. See you soon.